What up, my friends? My friends, welcome back to the Daily Dose. We're hitting you with day number 185 today, and we are going to be, I believe we're finishing up the book of Lamentations today. We've got Lamentations 4 and 5 on the schedule for today, as well as Psalm number 30. So let's go ahead and jump right in and just read through some of these verses and comment along the way. So starting with chapter 4, verse number 1, it goes something like this. How the gold has lost its luster. The fine gold became dull. The sacred gems are scattered at every street corner. How the precious children of Zion, once worth their weight in gold, are now considered as pots of clay, the work of a potter's hands. Even the jackals offer their beasts to nurse their young. But my people have become heartless like ostriches in the desert. Because of thirst, the infant's tongue sticks to the roof of its mouth. The children beg for bread, but no one gives it to them. Those who once ate delicacies are destitute in the streets. Those who brought up in royal purple now lie in ash heaps. The punishment of my people is greater than that of Sodom, which was overthrown in a moment, without a hand turned to help her. So here it seems like this is speaking about the siege in particular, about the siege when, the Babylonians basically had the city surrounded and everybody was barred in and boxed in and had nowhere to go. And, once they went through their provisions, they didn't really have a way to get any more. So it just speaks of a long and agonizing process of people trying to ration food and then ultimately succumbing to starvation after an extended period of time. And then that last verse that we just covered, verse 6, it says, the punishment of my people, i.e. Israel, is greater than that of Sodom, because Sodom was overthrown in a moment. So it's almost like the author here is saying that, Sodom got dealt with, right? They got taken out, but it all happened like that. It happened quick. It happened probably in a matter of a few minutes, right? The fire and brimstone came down and the people in Sodom were dead. But here the Israelites are having to suffer and endure this for extended periods of time. So then we go on to look at verse 19 through about 22. It says, our pursuers were swifter than eagles in the sky. They chased us over the mountains and lay in wait for us in the desert. The Lord's anointed, our very life breath, was caught in their traps. We thought that under his shadow we would live among the nations. Rejoice and be glad, daughter Edom, you who live in the land of Uz. But to you also the cup will be passed. You will be drunk and stripped naked. Your punishment will end, daughter Zion. He will not prolong your exile, but he will punish your sin, daughter Edom, and expose your wickedness. So here we see some prophecy, essentially, some predictions of Edom. And then if we jump over and look at chapter 5, we'll read through a few verses here in a couple of sections. We'll look at chapter 5, verses 1 through 8. It says, remember, Lord, what has happened to us. Look and see our disgrace. Our inheritance has been turned over to strangers, our homes to foreigners. We have become fatherless. Our mothers are widows. We must buy the water we drink. Our wood can be had only at a price. Those who pursue us are at our heels. We are weary and find no rest. We submitted to Egypt and Assyria to get enough bread. Our ancestors sinned and are no more, and we bear their punishment. Slaves rule over us, and there is no one to free us from their hands. So here it kind of seems like the theme is sort of vengeance, right? It seems like the author is speaking about how God did use the Babylonians, and God has and probably will use other nations as instruments of punishment and correction and judgment on his people. But here we see kind of a cry saying, God, look, granted, these people have done their work on us, so to speak, right? They've pilfered and plundered us, and they've taken our lives, they've taken our land. But now, Lord, will you repay them with your righteous judgment and wrath and vengeance, right? That kind of seems like what they're getting at here. And then picking up in verse 17, it says, because of this our hearts are faint, because of these things our eyes grow dim. For Mount Zion, which lies desolate, with jackals prowling over it, you, Lord, reign forever. Your throne endures from generation to generation. Why do you always forget us? Why do you forsake us so long? Restore us to yourself, Lord, that we may return. Renew our days as of old, unless you have utterly rejected us and are angry with us beyond measure. So again, just a lot of very dark and kind of depressing and seemingly hopeless recounting of what went on during the exile. And I think that this is a good warning to the people of God, right? Whether we're speaking about actual Israel or we're speaking about the church, right? I think that this is a very sobering reminder of God's view on sin and the extent that he was willing to go to punish sin by allowing the Babylonian captivity to take place, right? But praise be to God that we do not have to bear the brunt and the burden of our own sins, because Jesus did that on the cross for those of us who would have him and who would accept him and who would cherish him and obey him. So I'm thankful to God for that. And I just encourage y'all to just dig in, read the scripture for yourself, and don't forget to check out that psalm. Psalm number 30 is the psalm that we're reading today. So thanks for your time. Thanks for being here. And until we meet again, deuces.